Okay, so what if I told you that most of the financial advice you've ever heard is built on a complete lie? And what if the person telling you this wasn't some random critic, but a top award-winning insider who's ready to pull back the curtain on his own profession? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. Yup, it's mostly BS. Just let that sink in for a second. That's a direct quote from Ted McGlimmon, a guy who climbed to the absolute top of the financial world. And he's talking about his own industry. It's a pretty shocking statement, and really, it's the beginning of a whole new way of thinking about our money. So, who is this guy making such a bold claim? I want to be clear, this isn't some outsider throwing rocks. This is someone who totally mastered the traditional system, taught it to others, and won awards for being great at it, right before he had this huge realization that the whole thing was built on a really shaky foundation. I mean, his background is what makes this so powerful. We're talking about a retired Marine Corps lieutenant colonel, a guy who taught economics at the U.S. Naval Academy. And on top of all that, he was an award-winning manager and one of the top producers for a huge national firm. So when he starts questioning things, it's not coming from the sidelines, it's a confession right from the heart of the system. So when a top advisor like him calls his own industry BS, what is he even talking about? Well, it all boils down to this one single, really powerful and, as it turns out, deeply flawed idea that's at the core of almost all traditional finance. So let me introduce you to the villain of our story, Homo economicus, or the rational man. This is the central theory behind classical economics, and it basically assumes that you and I are these perfectly logical robots who make every single financial choice with cold, hard, calculating precision, all to get as rich as possible. And the assumptions this theory makes are just, well, they're kind of nuts when you think about it. It says we're always wise, we never have regrets, we can predict the future, we don't care at all what our friends think about our brand new car, and that emotions have absolutely zero role in our spending. Just think about that for a second. I mean, seriously, does this sound like you? Does it sound like anyone you know? The last time you bought a cup of coffee or that new pair of sneakers, were you a perfectly logical machine free of all emotion, impulse, or regret? Yeah, I didn't think so. Exactly, and that's the author's whole point. This entire theoretical house of cards just completely collapses the second it smacks into the real world. You know this one, right? The classic supermarket run. You walk in with a clear, rational plan. I just need milk and bread. You grab a cart, just in case. An hour later, you're at the checkout with a cart that's overflowing, and when you finally get home, you realize you forgot the milk. We've all done it. So much for being a rational man, huh? And it's not just the small stuff. Here's a story from the author himself. He's a brand new Marine second lieutenant. He meets a guy in a bar who's selling a car, and he buys it right there, with cash, sight unseen. No research, no inspection, nothing. And guess what? A year later, boom, the transmission blows up. See? Even a future economics instructor makes totally impulsive emotional decisions. And that quote right there just says it all. I rationalize my purchase while paying. It perfectly nails the big idea here. We are not logical creatures who happen to feel. No, we are emotional creatures who sometimes think. We make the decision with our gut, like buying that car, and then our brain scrambles to invent a logical-sounding reason for it after the fact. So realizing the entire premise of his industry was basically wrong, well, it sent McClyman on a mission. He had to find a new financial truth, one that was actually grounded in reality, not some old textbook theory. Now, this wasn't some overnight change. This was a journey decades in the making. From his time in the Marines to his work with clients, he just kept seeing the old model fail people again and again. But the real turning point, the big aha moment, came in 2007 when he discovered behavioral finance. It was like a light bulb went off. It finally gave a name to what he'd been seeing for years, and he completely rebuilt his entire business around this new philosophy. So, what is this big, revolutionary new approach? Honestly, it's a huge shift in focus. It's about stopping to look at the spreadsheets and starting to look at the person who's supposed to be using them. And the difference is just night and day. See, the old way is all about data and budgets and knowledge, and it assumes we're these rational robots. This new, behavioral way, it's all about your personality, your habits, your self-awareness, because it accepts that we are emotional beings first. The goal isn't more information, it's more insight into who you are. Okay, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this.
Your success with money has way less to do with how much you know and a whole lot more to do with how you act.
This quote is so good, I'm just going to say it again because it's a real game changer. Success with money has more to do with managing your behavior than with money. That totally reframes the problem, doesn't it? The real challenge isn't about mastering money, it's about mastering ourselves.
And this right here explains why so many of us have failed at budgeting. It's not because the tool is bad. It's because it's a mismatch. We're trying to force this one-size-fits-all spreadsheet onto our incredibly unique personalities. A system that's perfect for a super organized person is just going to feel like a prison to a free spirit. So all of this, the broken theories, the real-life stories, this whole new philosophy, it's all leading us to the most important and personal question you could possibly ask. You know, when it all comes down to it, after all the experts and all the theories are gone, there's only one person left in the room, you. This isn't about blaming the system. It's about empowerment. It's about realizing that you're the one in the driver's seat of your own financial life. So let's end with this. I want you to push aside all the spreadsheets, all the apps, all the advice you've been told you should follow. The real journey to financial success, it doesn't start with a calculator. It starts with a mirror. So the question is, what's your money temperament?